You remember a pair of eyes, not a woman, just the eyes. They were watching you long before you met her, in dreams you couldn't name, in streets where you were alone, not tender, not cruel, just aware, as if something ancient lived behind them, and you were already promised. You tell yourself it was beauty, but beauty doesn't stalk, doesn't wait, doesn't open her mouth to yawn and reveal the abyss of reproduction behind her kiss. You once thought love would complete you, that the soft warmth beside you meant arrival, but something in her silence made your bones ache, a strangeness, like being prey, like being used. You want to say she needed you, but did she, or did she merely select you? As instinct selects the ripest fruit to rot for the next seed. You weren't chosen, you were convenient, and yet you still return to her voice, her touch, her absence. You call it love, but deep down in the dark cellar beneath your pride, you know, you were never loved. You were consumed. You were never seduced by her smile, only by what it made you forget. You saw her across the room, not as a person, but as a possibility, not a soul, but a silhouette behind your yearning. She did nothing but exist, and already she was everything. Her walk was not toward you, but your mind pulled her close, sculpted her into something divine, mistaking biology for fate. You do not chase love, you chase anesthesia. Her beauty was never real. It was merely the absence of pain, temporary, sweet, and dangerous. You looked into her face and saw something that resembled peace, but peace is a myth you clothe in soft skin and symmetrical features. You weren't drawn to her, you were fleeing yourself. You say it was her voice that pulled you in the way she said your name, the way she laughed. But voices are only vibrations. What echoed in you was not music, but memory. You've been hungry for adoration since the moment you knew you would die. That is why beauty feels like salvation. It delays despair. And she, without knowing, became your answer. Not because she had truth, but because she looked like a doorway out of the cold. Her smile was never for you. It was a reflex, a test, a signal that you were safe to approach. You confused an instinctive social tool for spiritual communion. Her smile wasn't intimate, it was survival. She looked at you and didn't see you. You know that now. She saw a shape, a role, a utility, a man she could mold into meaning, or discard like a worn glove. But in that first glance, you saw eternity. You painted her with every color your emptiness needed. She was delicate because you needed something to protect. She was mysterious because your mind required a riddle to solve. She was kind because you wanted to be forgiven before you were accused. But she was none of these things. She was simply there, and your hunger did the rest. You asked her about her past, but not to know her. You asked to find the thread that might justify your longing. You needed her to fit into your myth, the one where the right woman redeems the wrong man. You hoped she was broken, not because you wanted to fix her, but because her weakness would prove your worth. You were not in love. You were negotiating your value through her reflection. Her wounds became your path to feeling necessary. Her beauty became your proof that you were wanted, not as a man, but as an escape from your own insignificance. You bought her things, not for her pleasure, but to purchase proximity to meaning. You memorized her preferences, her perfume, her silence not out of reverence, but desperation. You feared the day she would turn away, not because of loss, but because it would confirm that your illusion was borrowed. She smiled when she needed to. She kissed when she was bored. She said thank you with the voice of a merchant, not a muse. You suspected it, but buried the thought beneath flowers and fantasy. If she left, it would not be betrayal, it would be reality correcting your delusion. You told your friends she was different, that she saw the world the way you did, that her eyes held storms, her soul held depth. But that was your poetry, not her personality. She never confessed hunger, never revealed fear. She simply let you speak and nodded. And you mistook silence for soul. You wanted to believe she understood. But women don't need to understand to extract. They only need to reflect what you project. She never lied. You deceived yourself. There were nights she looked at you with coldness you couldn't name. It wasn't cruelty, it was calculation. The cold of selection. She was measuring how much longer she needed you. Her touch was not intimacy, it was leverage. And when she wept in your arms, it wasn't a moment of union. It was performance, hers or yours. Does it matter? You thought you were healing her, but she was only resetting the balance, ensuring you remained loyal to the fantasy. Pain breeds attachment. She knew that without knowing it. Every tear bought her another week of your devotion. You called it chemistry, but chemistry is compulsion, not choice, not connection. You were responding to a program older than consciousness, confusing it with compatibility. Your desire had nothing to do with her. It was simply the echo of your reproductive wiring demanding fulfillment. You believe in soulmates because you cannot bear the randomness of attraction. You cannot accept that your most sacred feelings are only the screams of biology dressed in poetry. And so you elevate her to goddess, to angel, to the missing piece. You believe in her to avoid believing in the futility of your own longing. She never asked for your devotion, she accepted it. Like a queen accepts tribute not out of gratitude, but out of expectation. You mistook her indifference for grace. You admired her aloofness as mystery. You suffered for her and called it loyalty. But your suffering was currency, a down payment on permanence. Every sacrifice was an insurance policy against abandonment. But love cannot be bought, only delayed. And when she finally left, it was not cruelty, it was conclusion. You didn't cry for her, you cried for what she represented, the dream that dissolved, the escape that collapsed. You cried because the mask of beauty had slipped, and behind it was only another human, flawed, self-interested, fleeting, and worse. You saw yourself, not the noble lover, not the romantic martyr, but the addict, the desperate child, the fool clinging to a ghost. You called it love, but you were only bargaining with existence, and she was the currency you chose. You will meet her again, in other faces, other names. The pattern will repeat, because the lie is comfortable, the pain is familiar. You will tell yourself you've changed, that this one is real, that you're finally seen. But beneath it all, the same hunger will whisper and you will follow. Not to find her, but to lose yourself again. Because deep down, you do not seek a woman. You seek the illusion she wears. And that illusion, soft, warm, and merciless, is more beautiful than truth. And so, you wait for another glance, another smile, another mask to worship, and when it arrives, you will bow, not out of reverence, but out of need. The velvet mask of beauty will descend again, and you, blind with longing, will call it love again. Beneath the gentlest gaze lies an appetite older than morality, and more ruthless than war. She never asked you to save her. She only made herself small enough that you would want to. She never begged to be rescued, only looked at you with that quiet expectancy, the kind that doesn't plead, but waits. And in that waiting, you saw purpose. You mistook passivity for innocence, fragility for goodness. But what you failed to see or refused to see was the depth of calculation that hides beneath every tender sigh. She does not need to overpower you. She only needs you to offer yourself, and men, like you, always do. You say she's gentle, But gentleness is a tool, not a virtue. Her touch is light, not because she loves you, but because pressure breaks illusion. You cannot worship what becomes too real, and so she remains just out of reach, enough warmth to stir your longing, but never enough to satisfy it. Her words soothe, not because they are true, but because they are vague. She says, I need time, and you wait. She says, I'm not ready, and you hope. Her softness is a leash, and every pause, every silence, is a tightening. You imagine women as tender creatures. You call them nurturers. You believe their love is purer than yours, that they give without asking, care without cost. But this is projection, not observation. She is not here to complete you. She is here to extract from you what nature programmed her to find. Not your dreams, not your soul, your utility, your provision, your strength. What you call her affection is a strategy so deeply embedded in her bloodline. She doesn't need to be aware of it. Her kindness is not false, it is functional. Look closer. When she smiles at you, what do you feel? Relief, gratitude, submission? That is the signal, not of love but of success. You have performed well. You have pleased the ancient algorithm inside her. You are now useful, and in that moment, you will do anything to keep her gaze from turning cold. You become obedient, even as you think you're powerful. You pay the bill. You change your tone. You lower your voice. You try not to appear weak, while she evaluates how long you can last. You believed she wanted your heart, but she wanted your stability, your certainty, your willingness to sacrifice, your usefulness as a resource in a world that threatens her with decay. Her body withers, her power fades, her worth, unlike yours, is fleeting. She lives in silent terror of time. You age into wisdom, she ages into irrelevance. And so her hunger is urgent, masked in patience. What seems like romance is actually procurement. She is selecting, testing, positioning not for ecstasy, but for security. When she touches your hand, it is not to feel you, it is to check. Are you present? Are you still orbiting her gravity? She cannot afford to lose your focus. Not because she loves you, but because distraction means drift. And drift means she must begin the process again. A new smile, a new mask, a new game. And she is tired. Every woman is tired. Tired of smiling to survive. Tired of pretending to be interested. Tired of calibrating how much of herself to show. And so, when she finds a man like you, desperate for meaning, starved for beauty, she feeds, but not to nourish, to bind. Because a fed man is a loyal man, and a loyal man defends what he believes he has won. You speak of her as if she is rare. You tell others she's not like the rest. But this is the precise illusion she depends on. Her power comes not from being unique, but from making you believe she is. In truth, she is simply the current face worn by the feminine instinct. She is repetition dressed as rarity. You resent her when she withdraws, but she is not cruel. She is careful. She knows you too well now. She sees your need, and need is dangerous. A man who believes he owns her will one day try to possess her, so she retreats. Not in fear, but in calculation. Distance renews your hunger. Silence sharpens your offering. She doesn't want to lose you. She wants to reset you. She will disappear long enough to reignite your panic, then return just as your resolve crumbles, and you will call it fate. You believe you lead, but she is ahead of you, not in thought, but in instinct. She senses the shifts before you speak. Her body knows the tempo of your desire, her breath, her posture, her gaze all tuned to your weakness. She doesn't need to manipulate you. You do it yourself, in hope of being chosen. You perform loyalty, you perform strength. You become the man she needs, and forget the man you were. In trying to win her, you lose yourself. She tests you not to see if you're strong, but to see if you'll break. The insults, the withdrawal, the comparisons, these are not cruelty. They are filters. Any man who shatters beneath her contradictions is discarded. She wants loyalty, yes, but only from a man who remains standing after confusion. If you cry too soon, she loses respect. If you rage too soon, she fears you. But if you wait simmering, steady, silent, she sees what she came for, and you are allowed to stay. For now, you talk of love, but she never promised love. She promised nothing. It was you who filled her silence with meaning, her absence with longing, her ambiguity with devotion. She watched you do it and said nothing, not out of malice, but because this is what men do. You build temples to goddesses who never asked to be worshipped, and then curse them when they leave. You accuse them of betrayal, but you were the only one who swore loyalty. She simply accepted it. You say she changed, but no, she simply revealed the parts you ignored, the impatience, the contempt, the way her gaze grew colder when your usefulness waned. You call it a shift, a betrayal, but it was a return to truth. She is not a fantasy. She is a species, and she has needs that do not care about your soul. You were never a man to her. You were a resource, a phase, a means, and when the means expired, so did her smile. This is not hatred, it is nature. The softness of a woman is not her essence, it is her weapon. She is not cruel because she wants to be. She is cruel because she must be. Her survival depends on how well she can acquire, bind, and replace. And so she evolves, not toward love, toward advantage. She loves only when she cannot help it, and that is rare. Most of the time, she calculates, and you, if you still call it love, were part of the math, and still, you long for her, even now, even knowing. Because knowledge does not erase instinct. You will look for her in the crowd. You will crave her scent, her silence, her chaos. You will miss being needed even if it was a lie. Because being used feels better than being forgotten. Her hunger remains, and so does yours, and together you dance. Not as equals, not as lovers, as animals in a ritual older than speech, older than names, older than truth. You wanted to be cherished, she needed to survive, and between those two forces, the illusion of love was born. She does not lie to you, you lie to her reflection, hoping it will become true. You think you know what she is, but the truth is not in her, it is in you. She doesn't deceive you, she offers nothing, and you accept it as everything. It is you who decorates her silences, paints her cruelty with excuses, turns her indifference into mystery. You do not fall in love with women. You fall in love with what you become in their eyes, or worse, what you hope to become. Every glance she gives you, every pause in conversation becomes a screen where you project meaning. And when the illusion fades, you accuse her of betrayal. But it was you who handed her the mask. You do not want to know her. You want her to reflect back the fantasy you fear you've never truly embodied, that you are powerful, desired, chosen. She doesn't need to trick you. She only needs to hold the mirror steady. You do the rest. You twist. You edit. You polish your words. You repress your doubts. You make yourself a character, the man who deserves her. But she isn't watching your performance. She's watching your usefulness. And when the mask cracks and your longing shows through, she recoils. Not because she is cruel, because she sees the burden you've placed on her. She never asked to be your meaning. She only wanted comfort, security, a role in the game. But you made her divine. And divinity is a cage no one can stay inside. You called her your future, but the future is just an excuse to escape the emptiness of the present. You told her she completed you, but what you really meant was that her attention suspended your despair for a time until she withdrew it. And then you collapsed. Not from heartbreak, from exposure. She is not your enemy. She is your mirror. That is why it hurts. Not because she changed, but because she showed you who you are without her. Hollow, forgotten, weak. Your love was never about her. It was about not being alone with the voice in your skull. She quieted it. Her presence muffled your lack of purpose. But she never offered permanence. You invented it. Because the alternative was unbearable. You told yourself stories, that she was different, that she saw you, that your souls aligned. But souls do not align. They orbit need, and hers never landed. She studied you not to love you, but to use you efficiently. Your fears, your hopes, your triggers. She listened, not to care, but to calculate. You were not a man, you were a resource, a stage, a function in her script. And when the function ended, the story rewrote itself without you. You said, I gave her everything, but you didn't. You traded. You gave to get attention for loyalty, kindness for validation, protection for obedience. And when the transaction failed, you collapsed into self-pity. But pity is the luxury of the blind. She didn't ruin you, she revealed you. That's why you can't forget her, because you didn't lose her. You lost the illusion that you were more than temporary. You stare at her photos now. Her smile looks different, sharper. You swear she's colder now. But she's not. She's free. From your pedestal, from your projections, from the cage of your hunger. She is no longer your savior. She has returned to being a woman, and women are not made to carry your meaning. They are made to survive, and she survived you, as she was always meant to. The pain you feel now, the gnawing, the silence, the images that replay is not from love. It's withdrawal. You were addicted to her gaze, her approval, her presence that confirmed you existed, and now you are disintegrating. Not because she was your soulmate, because she was your distraction. And with her gone, all that remains is the self you abandoned to keep her. You think about messaging her one last time. You rehearse what to say, something noble or vulnerable or casual, but none of it is real. What you want is not contact. What you want is to reverse time, to return to the moment where she still looked at you, where the mirror still flattered, but it's broken now, and in the cracks, you see not her but the man you pretended to be. You speak of closure, but closure is for those who accept the truth. You want comfort, not clarity. You want to be told that it mattered, that you mattered. But the silence you get is not cruelty. It is truth. In her world, you were a chapter. In yours, she was a religion. And that asymmetry is the wound you cannot cauterize. You were warned, not by others but by yourself. The hesitation in your gut, the dissonance in her touch, the way her eyes drifted when you spoke of dreams. But you ignored it, because belief feels better than suspicion. And now you suffer, not because she harmed you, but because you bet everything on a reflection. And mirrors, by nature, cannot love you back. She does not mourn you. She moves on, efficiently, quietly, because she did not lose herself in you. You were a phase, an option, a test, and she passed. She extracted what she could: safety, attention, experience, and then moved toward the next horizon. You call it cold, but it is freedom. She never anchored herself to illusions. You did. You were the prisoner, and the chains were forged by your longing. You'll meet another, and you'll pretend to know better. You'll move slower, speak less, smile less. But the hunger remains. You will disguise it better. perhaps, but it will leak through your silence, your gaze, your waiting, and she, the next mirror, will feel it. She will reflect what you want until it becomes heavy, and then she will do what they all do, release you. You do not want love, you want erasure. A woman whose eyes make you forget the weight of your own failure. But love cannot carry that. No human can. You are asking to be rewritten. And that request silent, buried, desperate is the poison that seeps into every word you speak, every touch, every lie you tell yourself about being ready. She was not cruel, she was a mirror, and mirrors do not lie. You do. Every time you say she changed, every time you say she used you, every time you say, I loved her. No, you used her to forget, to matter, to postpone the moment when you'd have to face the void unaccompanied. Now, here you are, alone. No perfume in your bed, no messages on your phone, only echoes. And in those echoes, the truth sharpens. You never loved her. You only loved who you thought you were through her eyes. And now, those eyes are gone. And so is the man you tried to be. She left nothing behind. No final word, no keepsake, no trace that proves you ever mattered. Only a faint indentation where she once slept, already fading beneath the weight of time. And yet, some nights, you wake before the sun, certain you heard her voice not calling, just existing like the last whisper of a dream that dissolves before it can be named. You rise, you dress, you pass mirrors carefully, avoiding your own gaze, but in the window a flicker, a figure, not hers, not yours, just the shape of something you once believed in. It looks at you, and for a moment, you wonder, was she ever real, or was she only the mirror reflecting the man you were never willing to see? Then the image blinks and vanishes.